In this video tutorial, I will explain how to work with form and grid styles in ORIM. First of all, what are form and grid styles and why are they needed? When you create a form or a query represented by a grid, ORIM applies a number of default settings to the query or form. Let's create a simple business object and look at the default form of this object. I will create an object with a few attributes for testing. Three attributes with default settings will do. ORIM creates a default form for this object automatically. Let's look at it. First of all, we can see that the form occupies the entire width of the screen. We can see that it has a standard header that displays the caption of the form, the icon, and some default operations in the toolbar. The width of the label column is fixed at 90 pixels. Let's now create a query that looks for all instances of this object. Let's look at the preview of this query. Again, we can see that the query occupies the full width of the screen. It uses the standard header with the caption, icon, and some default operations. The query has a paging bar, and there are no operations with items. I can easily change the default settings. For example, I can remove the header of the form or query and remove some or all default operations. However, if I want most or all of my forms and queries not to have a header, for example, then I would need to do it every single time, for every new query or form. This can become quite tedious, and this is where styles can help. Styles allow me to specify all the default settings that I want to use for a query or form, and then use them for new queries or forms instead of the default factory settings. I can also assign a name for a style and then use a particular style when creating a form or a query. This is very similar to the concept of styles in Microsoft Word, for example. So let's see how we can define a style and then use it for a new form or query. To do this, we select the Manage Styles command from the Edit menu. Here we can select either grid styles for grids or form styles for forms. Let's start with a grid style. Let's say that we want a query to automatically have edit and delete operations with records, no paging bar, and no icon in the header. So we will add a new style, give it a name, and then specify operations with records that we want to be available for every new query. Then we will turn off paging bar and turn off icon in the panel header. The style that is used for new queries and forms is displayed in these two drop-downs here. We can define several styles and then select the style we want. Here I can see that the new grid style has been automatically set as the current style. If I create a new query now, the style will be automatically applied. Let's try this. So here we can see that the query has operations with records, no icon, and no paging bar. Let's create a form style now. It will have a width of 800 pixels. It will be center aligned. Buttons will be right aligned. And the default label width will be 70 pixels. All attributes will have width of 300 pixels. All integers will have spin boxes. And yes/no attributes will be represented as switches. Let's see what happens when we create a new form now. As you can see, it is 800 pixels wide. Buttons are displayed on the right. Label column width is 70 pixels. All attributes are 300 pixels wide. Number attributes are displayed with spin boxes, and yes/no attributes are switches. If you already have an existing form or query, you can apply a particular style to this form or query. Let's apply the styles we have created to some queries and forms in the CRM sample application. Let's go to the form of the appointment object. This is how it looks originally. We can see that there are no switches and buttons are displayed in the middle. Let's now apply a style. We'll do it by clicking this icon here. And this is how the form looks now. We can see that it became wider and moved to the center. We can now see switches and the buttons are right aligned. And now let's go to the all staff members query. This is how it looks originally. There is no header, there is a paging bar, and there are some default panel operations at the top of the query. Let's now apply the style. And this is how the query looks now. We can see that there is now a standard header with no icon, operations with records, and no paging bar.